As you can see here, I still have some rust right here. I'm gonna cut this out, and I have to cut the end off of this and then rebuild this section back, welded onto here. You know, it had these splash guards, a kind of a triangle shape to come back to here, that were put on here. And then they had a rubber seal on top of them that sealed against the bottom of the fender, or the top of the fender, but the underside of it, to keep water from splashing up in here. I'm not even gonna put that back on. Like I said, I'm making this a gasser. I'm gonna end up cutting this when I take all this front suspension out to put the straight axle in, taking these shock towers out and everything. So I'm gonna cut, you know, about 1 inch below this rail here, all the way along there, and put this flat metal in all the way down. It's gonna have fender wall headers coming out right here. So, see, I don't need all that anyway, so that's actually good, a good thing. So we're gonna get started on that. Next order of business. So we're going to make our patch panel first. I don't know if you can see. We'll set this to 1.75 or 1.75 inches. You want to make sure you got a square piece to work with. If you use this end, you can see it's not square. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's not square, but the other end is. All right. So 1.75. We'll hold this up here. We'll add our 5/8 for our flange, which would be 1 3/8, but we're going to have that radius in there where we bend it, which adds a little bit to it. So we're going to make it 1.5 inches, or 2.5 actually. Sorry, would have been 2 3/8, but it's going to be 2.5 now. Come on over. All right, and then remember we were 1.5 inches high. Just our combination square down to 1.5 inches, or 1.5 inches. Draw us a line. Draw this line. At the flange break, and then another line at the end of the flange, so we know where to cut it off. So we're going to make our long cut first. Go ahead and make this line all the way across. All right, so what we end up with is this will be gone, that, and that will all be gone. And this is what we'll be left with for our patch panel. All right, you can see that. The X's is what's going to be gone, and then the patch panel will be left. The short area on the patch panel is what's going to be the flange. Easy to overbend it, just a little bit overbend. Easy to straighten back out too. So you see there, there's our patch panel. All right, put this over here. All right, now our top rail, our fender rail, is going to be a little bigger, so we need a little bigger piece of steel to do that. What we do first is cut this piece off. It's been plasma cut because that's actually harder, just from the transfer of carbon into it from heating it up to cut it. So we're just going to line that up in here and just cut that piece of scrap off. In case we have to cut through it, it's just harder on the shear blade. All right. Now, we know that our flange piece needs to be 3 inches long. But we're also going to add the same 5/8 flange on that to where it welds to the cowl panel. So we're going to go 3. Of course, again, you have the radius. This is an 1/8 inch radius. So we're going to add 1/8 of an inch. So instead of 3 5/8, it's going to be 3 3/4, right? So just our combination square to 3 3/4. Verify. Yep, 3 3/4. Now, now the fold over the top where the fender bolts is 1.25. Then we have a 1/4 inch flange on that. So we're going to take our radius and do 1 5/8 or 1.625. All right. Now we're going to make our rail. What we'll do first, there's our small flange. Right. Then what we got to do, right? We're going to have to cut right down this radius in that break back to this line, and then we'll bend this flange up and this flange over, and that's what will go against the cowl panel and weld on. So this is what we ended up with. Fit right in here. We'll ground some of these welds down, and that'll, what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll tack this radius right here, and then come on across with it, and I'll come in here with a hammer and dolly, and I'll start knocking this down and kind of forming those tabs. Once I get them formed down there, I'll tack them on the bottom side, and then I'll trim them the way I want them, and then I'll weld it all in. All right, rock and roll. You look at it here. All right, we're going to move on to some other things. What I might do, go ahead and weld this slit up here that I ground in it, cutting that old splash guard off of there. While I've got my welder on, I've got a rod handy. That'll go pretty quick. First, we'll wire wheel that a little bit. Probably not going to have enough rod for that. All this area here is going away anyway because, like I said, of the turning this into a gasser. But for the time being, I'm just going to clean this up. My initial plan was to buy this car, do some minor repair work on it, drive it for a while and enjoy it until somebody liked it more than me and they bought it from me, flip it. And the minor repairs turned into more major stuff, which I think, gotta be honest, that's kind of a trend. And then now my younger of my two daughters has fallen in love with this car, so which has helped me work on a couple of my cars. My older daughter has helped me on my Mustang. Years ago, she was really little. She was helping me work on it, but I haven't done much to it. It's getting ready to get the full-on kind of a pro street build on it. And when I'm gone, she'll have that, and when I'm gone, my other daughter will have this. I grabbed my torch a little farther back. I don't have my welding gloves on. I'm bad about that, but I found that I can just, a lot of times I don't even wear gloves. If you're welding for an extended period of time like this, you will get hot, no matter where you position. I'm running a real low amperage right now. I'm only at 56 amps. All right, so here's what we ended up with. I'm okay with it. I went back over these welds here and flattened them. I may flatten those too, I don't know. Probably not these over here, but over here on the front of the firewall, I'll probably flatten those just to make them look a little better. And they'll grind a little better too if I want to grind them. But here is what I ended up with. It's all welded in. It's all welded up, just closed back in. Just stronger and don't really mean nothing, but now from here to here, it needed to be fixed. From here to here, I didn't really need to fix that, but I'm just picky because this whole shock tower is coming out, like I said. All right, so my less than modern equipment I got here. I'm going to call it on this section right here. I'm going to break for lunch, come back, and weld that patch in.